Shalom, shalom, Yashahal. This is the brother Aram coming at you with another video today, giving all praises due to Al-Ayun, the Most High, Yahuwah, Bahashem, Yahushua HaMashiach. Alright, so let's get into this lesson today. Alright, now today's topic of today is a little controversial again, but it has to be addressed because there's a lot of major misunderstanding within the nation of Israel, especially amongst these so-called Israelite camps, that just cannot understand the fact that there could be a Gentile that serves or fears or acknowledges the one true Elohim, which is Yahuwah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So in this lesson, we're going to be discussing Job and Balaam, okay? Because there's a lot of misunderstanding out here. You will hear, if you go to multiple camps, or not even men just in camps, even other people who are outside of camps, they'll tell you different breakdowns for Job. One might say that Job is an Edomite. One might say that Job is an Israelite. Some is even go as far to say that he was a Levite. Okay, so I'm gonna have to bring out this video because I had this understanding for quite some time, and the scripture said that, you know, if you have the understanding, you need to bring it out to the people. So I'm doing this, one, to edify our people, two, to cut a certain clown out there by the name of Judah Awoken, okay, on YouTube, like some type of internet troll. If I'm not mistaken, I think I know who this is, but if it's not, then he's got to be some type of troll. I encountered the man, well, but he actually came on my page a few months ago. I had a video that I did back, which is on this channel, basically going into how the mark of the beast is not an RFID microchip, and that your salvation is not going to boil down to whether if you took a microchip or not, and that is based upon the Torah. And if any of y'all disagree with that, I challenge any of y'all to watch the video. If you disagree with it, you can feel free to shoot scriptures at me, and if you're willing to be mature enough to like go back and forth and discuss it, we could discuss it. I'm not going to run from the topic, you know what I'm saying? But then he starts stepping out of line. He starts calling me a false prophet. So I said, okay, how am I a false prophet? Then he jumps onto my other video, which people on my other channel seem to have been edified, but he didn't get edified, with the Leviticus 19, with the mixing of fabrics between linen and wool. He said I was a false prophet on that. So I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to delete your comment. So I said, okay, how am I a false prophet? He didn't say anything. So I realized the man is some type of stalker too, some type of loser, because there's another brother by the name of the Watchman that I watch, and him and his wife did a video on Job. Now, they was right on the fact that Job being a Gentile, but they was wrong on the fact of him being an Edomite. So I was edifying our people on there because I stand firm on where I said on the studies that I had done a few years back that he's a Syrian. But I never took the time to accumulate and put everything into one, lesson for, to do a lesson on this, because I thought Israel would have known as time goes on, but it seemed like, it's getting out of control with this Job thing now. So he sees where I makes a comment, so then he says that the Most High is basically not dealing with me. Then he comes on and says that Job is a Levite. I said that's funny, because when you read the book of Job, Levi, Judah, even the name Israel is nowhere mentioned within the book of Job. Okay, when you read the book of Job, nothing that pertains to Israel is in that book. All we know is that he was a man from the east, okay, and he was from Uz. And a lot of y'all get this misunderstanding with Uz because y'all read Lamentations, the 4th chapter, when it speaks about Edom dwelling in the land of Uz. But what a lot of y'all don't realize, it says to Edom that dwelleth in the land of Uz. Okay, but it said that Job came from the east. Now, if anybody knows about Esau's descendants, when we read Genesis chapter 36, okay, the first verse, the genealogy of Esau, when you go down to verse 28, yes, Dishan, one of the sons of Edom, had a son named Uz, but guess what? He was never given any land. Okay, Uz dwelt in Edom. Okay, so there's two Uzes that I'm going to explain here. One is a Uz from Syria, okay, Aram, where Job and Balaam come from. Okay, and then you had Uz, the son of one of the sons of Esau, but there's two different Uzes, because when you read the text, all right, Uz dwelt in Edom, and if you read Obadiah, Edom is south of Israel. But wherever Job is from, he's east, okay, which is Syria. So I'm going to do this video to cut this man once and for all, because he actually came on my page this morning talking about, oh, because I told him I was going to do a lesson, but this clown doesn't realize that I'm a father. I'm moving. I'm trying to get out to Israel so I can keep Torah. Nothing you would know about Judah Awoken. But since you want me to cut you so bad, well, here it goes. Also, when I bring up my points that Job is a Syrian, Mr. Judah Awoken, when I was bringing out my points, the man even said that Balaam was an Edomite. Now, I could agree with some brothers when they think that Balaam was a Moabite, you know what I'm saying? But there's no text that would even make you suspect that Balaam could have been from Esau. Okay, Balaam was from Aram too. He was also from Syria. And what you have to understand with this region, Aram, okay, it's within Mesopotamia. And the scholars back then, they had it very confused on whether the name in Mesopotamia, Aram, Aram Naharaim, or Padan Aram, which one of our relatives by the name of Laban, Rebecca's brother, yes, we intermingled and married with these people too, because they was a dark-skinned nation, which leads to the next thing of why people think that Job was Israel, because when we read Job chapter 30, verse 30, it said that his skin was black, okay? You Israelites got to stop being so ignorant on the fact that just because something says it's black, you claim it as Israel. There's other nations that are dark too. And I'm going to show you that these Syrian people were also dark-skinned people, and that we intermingled with these people, and that's the same exact people that Laban came from, Balaam, and yes, Job. Job is not an Edomite, he's not a Levite, and he's not an Israelite. Okay, so all y'all that teach that, you're off. Okay, so I'm going to, once again, I'm doing this for the edification for the brothers and the few sisters that want to get this knowledge. And for the rest of y'all that want to scoff, like I said, watch the whole video, write down the notes. If you think you have something better, make a video. And as far as for you, Judah Awoken, I'm giving you 2 weeks after I make this video. If you don't reply back within 2 weeks, I take that as a forfeit. You don't have no scriptures to back up, because I'm about to slaughter you today with the scriptures through the Ruach HaKodesh. Because you want to say that Job was a Levite because it said that Job made he made an offering to the Most High, and which I showed you in the comment board, which doesn't make any sense. Well, because I guess Jethro, a Midianite, he had to been a Midianite Levite too, right? I guess the Philistines in the book of Samuel, okay, who knew how to do an offering unto the Most High, I guess they were Levites too. The other nations acknowledged the Most High, and they knew how to make offerings in the ancient world. But just because somebody did an offering unto the Most High does not mean that they came from the tribe of, all right? So just because one sacrificer made an offering unto the Most High does not make them an Israelite, okay? And that's why I'm gonna have to do this video, because there's a lot of people who cannot just fathom the fact that Job is a Gentile and he has a book. Well, Ruth is a Gentile too, okay? Ruth has her own book, and she comes from the nation of Moab. So I mean, we gotta realize, we gotta get the true understanding. Then another thing is, this guy said he knew all about Job. I bet this guy can't even explain how Job has his wealth. Remember, he was one of the greatest men in Syria who had many cattle and a large substance. So how did he get his wealth? He used to work. He was a counselor for the Egyptians. That's in Jasher. So we're going to go through all of this text. We're going to get the understanding of who Job is, who Balaam is, and even Laban real quick. So we're going to break this down and get a true understanding on who Job is according to the Holy Scriptures once and for all. So for you brothers out there, get your notebooks, pads out. Be ready, man, because we're about to get into it right now. All right, so let's get straight into it. This is the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 1 to 3. It says, there was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim and eschewed evil. So one would read that and be like, see, that proves that he's an Israelite, because see, he feared the Most High, and he was perfect. Well, obviously, you guys have never read First Kings. Even King Solomon said a Gentile that feared the Most High and prayed toward his holy temple in Mount Zion, man. So just because he prayed to the Most High, that does not, it said that he was in the land of Uz. Didn't say that he was an Israelite. Verse 2, And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest out of all the men of the east. So we understand that Job, he's in the land of a land named Uz, and it's in the land of the east, which we have to get a clear understanding, because this cannot be Edom, because Edom is south. Okay, but this man is coming from the east. Now I already mentioned that Esau had his descendants of sons, and one of them was named Dishan, and Dishan had a son later on that was named Uz. So this is where people think that Uz is pertaining to Edom. But what you don't realize is that there's a whole other Uz, which was the son of Aram, which was one of the sons of Shem. Okay, that's who Job comes from. And if you don't believe me, let's get the Torah, let's get the Barashith, all right? Barashith, chapter 10, Genesis chapter 10, verses 21 to 23. And it states this: unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber. And in case you don't know, Eber is the father of the descendants of all Hebrews. So if you come from Eber, you're a Hebrew. Okay? It says, the brother of Japheth the elder, even to him were children born. Verse 22, the children of Shem, Elam and Ashar and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. Verse 23, and the children of Aram, Uz. There we go. So there's another Uz. You see this? The children of Aram, Uz and Hul and Gether and Mash. So we clearly see that Uz came from a descendants from the sons of Shem from Aram. Okay, now we're going to get Jasher, the 10th chapter, because it goes through the same exact thing. I'm going to show you that Jasher, Genesis, what's it called, the Numbers, all of these books all connect and say the same exact thing. Now this is Jasher going through the genealogy and of the nations, and it's going to say the same exact thing. This is Jasher chapter 10, verse 30 to 31. And some of the children of Shem, son of Noah, father of all the children of Eber, same thing we was just reading back in Genesis. It says, also went and built themselves cities in the places wherein they were scattered, and they called their cities after their names. Verse 31, and the sons of Shem were Elam, did we not read that? Ashar, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. And they built themselves cities and called the names of all their cities after their names. So we clearly see, I'm reading Jasher from the Sefer text, that clearly that Aram was one of the sons of Shem. And that we read in Genesis that Uz came from Aram, correct? All right, so let's keep on reading. This is verse 34. And the children of Aram also went and built themselves a city. Now listen closely. And they called the name of the city Uz, after their eldest brother. And they dwelt therein. That is the land of Uz to this day. Whoa, Judah Awoken, you heard that? So this Uz ain't got nothing to do with Edom. This Uz is a descendant of Aram. Okay, now let's go into the Hebrew in Genesis, for Genesis the 10th chapter, and let's look up this word Aram. Okay, and it says Aram is Strong's H758, and it means exalted. Aram, Mesopotamia, what? Arameans, Syria, the nation, 5th son of Shem, the Syrian. So we clearly see that Aram's descendants are who? The Syrians. And matter of fact, which is so funny is, this people was around before Jacob and Esau came on the scene. So how could Job be a descendant of a people that came before Jacob and Esau, for all y'all that think that Job is an Israelite or an Edomite? How could that be so if this is Aram was on the scene and his people was on the scene before Esau and Jacob came on the scene? Please answer that question in the comment board. And when we go to look up Uz, it means wooded, a son of Aram, the grandson of Shem, an Edomite, son of Dishan, which we already stated, and grandson, and it says, and grandson of Syria. What? Country of Job. So you have to see a difference, and I'm going to explain this later on at the end, proving that the Edomites dwelt in Syria after they helped conquer Jerusalem, because it was the Edomites that helped the Babylonians. And if you know the whole area of Mesopotamia, Chaldea is part of that, and Syria is all within that Mesopotamia region. Okay, and Aram Naharaim, which we're going to find out, or Padan Aram or Syria, is located in Upper Mesopotamia, so it's all the same region. And it's making a clear distinction that there's a difference between the descendants of Dishan and the country people. Okay, so we clearly see that in the book of Jasher, the 10th chapter and verse 34, that Uz is a city, a descendants of the people from Aram, which were Syrians. Now, wait a minute, Judah Awoken. Was not Laban known as a Syrian, Rebekah's brother? And did not Isaac tell Jacob to go to Padan Aram, okay, to find a wife? Now let's find more about this, because when we read Genesis chapter 28, I believe, it shows you where we intermingled and that Jacob went there to this land to get a wife. But it also states that Laban and Bethuel, which was his father, a Syrian. Okay? And then when we go to Genesis chapter 25 verse 20, it clearly states that that Laban and Bethuel were Syrians. Okay? This is Genesis chapter 25 verse 20. And it says, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Syrian. Now, let's look up this word Syrian, right? This word here, Syrian, is in the Strong's as H761, okay? And what is the word? Arami. You see that? It's the same thing, Arami, which means what? An Assyrian and somebody who is Aramean. So this Aramean people is a tribe of Syrians that dwelt in Uz, which was in Syria. This has nothing to do with Edom or Israel. Okay, that's where Laban was from. And I'm gonna work up to Balaam and Job in a little while, but I'm just giving you the history. So when we read the text, it'll come to you like that. I like that definition. It says, yeah, Assyrian, it means exalted, a person, thing of Aram, or Aramite. Okay, and even when you read, when you look up Padan Aram, the Hebrew there is H6307, and it's Padan, which means field of Mesopotamia, region of Syria. So we understand that Laban is a Syrian from Padan Aram or Aram, correct? Now, let's read the book of Jubilees. Let's see how Aram or Syria, well, let's find out where this location is, because when we read the book of Job, it said that this Uz was in the east. All right, let's get Jubilees chapter 28 verse 1. And this is speaking about Jacob. And he went on his journey and came to the land of the east. So it described where Laban was at, which we know was in Syria, as the land of the east, to Laban, the brother of Rebekah. And he was with him and served him for Rachel, his daughter, 1 week. So we clearly see that Aram is known as the east as well. And if you look on the map, Syria, Aram, is east to Israel. Now, when I read from Jasher, okay, when you read Jasher chapter 36, verse 7, it says, and Laban, the what? The Arami, okay, this is in the Sefer text, died in those days. So they called Laban the Arami in the Sefer text, right? Now, which I find funny is in the modern text, okay, it doesn't say Arami, it says what? Syrian. Just to further show you once again that Aram, Assyria, Macedonia, Padan Aram, Naharaim is all the same area. This is Jubilees chapter 27 verses 9 to 10. And it says, and Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and admonished him and said unto him, do not take you a woman of any of the daughters of Canaan. Verse 10, arise and go to Aram Naharaim. You see? So it's the same thing. He didn't say Padan Aram here or Syria. They had it confused. And here it says Aram Naharaim. To the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and take you a woman from thence of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. And that's in the book of Jubilees. Then when you jump down to verse 12, it says, and Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Aram Naharaim to Laban, the son of Bethuel, what? The Aramni, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's mother. So we see that right here, whether it's saying all the same exact thing. Okay, so I'm just putting this out there because when we get to Job, it's going to all make sense. Now, let's deal with, now we understand that Aram is Syria, right? I think I put the nail in the coffin on that one. So, Aram had a descendants of Uz, and Uz is within the territories of Aram, which is Assyria. Now, Judah Awoken said that Balaam was an Edomite. Okay, now this is about to cut you now. Okay, and like I said, I'm giving you 2 weeks to make your video to please counter this, because this right here is gonna cut you, Judah Awoken. More like Judah's sleep. Okay, you need to go, you need to stay what you was doing. And it's really funny for a guy who talks a lot, and you go on his profile, and he had a profile since 2012. And the only video was your last video was your only video. And it was 20 seconds long, and you don't hear nothing of this guy. So it's either this guy is an agent, or two, he's just some big punk coward hiding behind a computer that talks a lot of trash. And then when it's time to actually prove his facts, he just keeps on, you know, slandering or gainsaying. But you said that Balaam was an Edomite. Let's get the book of Numbers chapter 23. And the Most High clearly states that Balaam was from Aram, that he's a Syrian. This is Numbers chapter 23 verses 5 to 7. And Yahuwah put a word in Balaam's mouth. So this is Yah letting us know where Balaam is. So I want to hear you say that the Most High is wrong. Okay? And listen closely, because we read that Laban, right? He was from Syria and he came from the east. And Job comes from Uz, which is in Aram, which is in the east. Now listen to where the region and how he describes the region that Balaam is from. And Yahuwah put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak. And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab. So I guess he's a Levite too, because they're making burnt offerings. You know, you said that that's only for the Levites. So I guess he's an Israelite as well. Ignorant. Verse 7. And he took up this parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, has brought me from Aram. So we understand now that Balaam is from Aram, and what? Out of the mountains of the east. Was not Job from Uz, which was one of the descendants of Aram? And was he not from the land of the east? It's the same exact thing. Saying, come curse me, Jacob, and come defy Yasha'ah. So Balaam is not no Edomite, like you said. You're off. The Torah cut you. The Most High cut you. He's letting us know that he's from Syria. And if you understand the text and what's going on, the men of this region were always known for that. Because when we're going to find out about Job is that he was a counselor for the Egyptian. And later on, Balaam becomes a counselor for the Egyptian. And that's where Job got all his wealth that we read. Because I bet a lot of y'all don't even know what Job's job was. How did he get that wealth? Did he just stumble upon it? No, he was a counselor. That's why the Most High took all of it. But you're going to find out some about Job, when he advised to the Egyptian. And I bet a lot of y'all ain't gonna like Job so much after what you're gonna find out today. But a lot of you guys don't realize is that the men from this region, they had a lot of knowledge of sorcery, divination, and they were hired for these things. Job was one of them. Balaam was one of them. Even though that Jethro was a Midianite, he was also hired for his knowledge. Okay, this is why we see in the Torah why Balaam was hired by Balak, the king of Moab. And you will find out even not only the Egyptians, but also some of the Japhetic people that that's where he was scattered amongst during the time that his people was conquered, Balaam's people, which we're going to find out throughout Jasher, because Jasher gives us a clear history on Balaam. Okay, but he was hired for his wisdom to use sorcery. Okay, and he even knew about Moses. And he even tried to have Moses killed, but we're going to find out. What? Balaam tried to have Moses killed? Yes. But you guys don't read all the text. This is why you guys don't have this understanding. So we're going to go to the book of Jasher, the 64th chapter, and we're going to find out the history about Balaam and what he was doing when he was around the children of Kittim, which was one of the descendants of Japheth. Okay? This is the book of Jasher, chapter 64, verses 1 to 2. And Balaam, the son of Beor, you see, was at that time with Angeas in the battle. And when he saw that Zepho prevailed over Angeas, he fled from there and came to Kittim. And Zepho and the children of Kittim served him with great honor. And Zepho knew Balaam's wisdom. So we see that Balaam had some type of reputation in the ancient world for divination. So he left from the children of Japheth, and he was like a trader. He basically goes wherever the money is at. He said, okay, these guys lost their battle, so I'm going to go, whoever wins now, I'm going to be with Zepho, these Edomites now. He conquered, now I'm going to be a counselor for him. Okay? And it said, and Zepho gave unto Balaam many gifts, and he remained with him. Alright, so I'm going to read verses 6 to 11. This is Jasher chapter 61. Verses 6 to 11. And Zepho was in those days enticing Angeas to fight the sons of Jacob in those days. So we understand that that there was some type of war going on between our people and the Edomites and the Japhetic people. And after some of the time, Angeas hearkened unto the word of Zepho and consented with him to fight with the sons of Jacob in Egypt. And Angeas got all his people in order, a people numerous as the sand which is upon the seashore. And he formed his resolution to go to Egypt to battle. And amongst the servants of Angeas was a youth 15 years old. So Balaam was young. Balaam, the son of Beor, and his name and his youth was very wise and understood the art of witchcraft. Now I'm going to keep on reading. This is Jasher chapter 64 verses 25, and I'm going to just keep on reading down. Now it said, now, and Zepho the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, king of Kittim. Now he's the king of Kittim now, because if you understand, he defeated Angeas, which was the king at that time. So when you become a conqueror, you become the king of it. So this is why Zepho is known as the king of Kittim now. It says, and Hadad the son of Bedad, the king of Edom, and all their camps, and all the children of the east. Now you realize that Balaam's people was already under this people's captivity. And they was already mingled amongst them, and they was known as the children of the east. Once again, it says, in the children of Ishmael, which is the so-called Arabs today, a people numerous as the sand, and camped together in the valley of Pathrock. It says opposite of Tapantap. Okay, Salakia if I pronounce that wrong. Verse 26. And Balaam, the son of Beor, what? The Arami. Okay, so we clearly see that Balaam here in Jasher is a Syrian. We already established that Aramni is anybody just like the same people that Laban came from. It's a Syrian. it says, was there in the camp of Zepho, and it says, for he came with the children of Kittim to the battle. And Balaam was a man highly honored in the eyes of Zepho and his men. And it says, and Zepho said unto Balaam, try by divination for us, that we may know who will prevail in the battle, we or the Egyptians. And Balaam rose up and tried the art of divination, and he was skillful in the knowledge of it, but he was confused, and the work was destroyed in his hand. Why? Verse 29, and he tried it again, but it did not succeed. And Balaam despaired of it, it said, and left it, and did not complete it, for this was from Yahuwah, okay, in order to cause Zepho and his people to fall into the hands of the children of Yasha'al, who trusted in Yahuwah, the Elohim of their ancestors, in their war. So we clearly see that Balaam was used, okay, as a sorcerer way before the Moabites got a hold of him, when we read in the book of Numbers. Okay, he had this position long before, and he was 15 years old. So the people from the east had this knowledge long time ago, okay, on how to do these things. That's why they hired these people from Syria. Now to Job, okay, because if you actually read Jasher, it jumps, okay. Now Job is a counselor for the Pharaoh in Egypt. Okay, now when we read the book of Job, it says that he was a man who had great substance. He was greatest out of all the men of the east. We understand what this east is now, Syria. Okay, Aram Naharaim. Okay, so we're gonna find out according to Jasher the 66th chapter now, because I'm gonna do a jumping around. I'm not gonna do a lot of reading because it's a lot to cover here. And we're going to find out what nation that Job is from, and makes it clear. And it's going to be another cut to Judah Awoken, talking about he's from the tribe of Levi. Now, when you understand the book of Jasher, the 66th chapter, this is when our forefathers was in Egypt, and our numbers started to grow big amongst the Egyptians, and we started to scare the Egyptians. The same way we scare white people in America today when our numbers get big. And what happened was, the Pharaoh was asking advice from different counselors on what they should do and how they should handle and deal with the children of Israel, because the numbers was getting big, and they was fearing that one day we will have a war. And you can read about this also in the book of Exodus, the 1st chapter. It's the same story, but Jasher is going more into detail than Exodus, than the Torah, because the Torah is just giving us a fast rundown. Jasher is giving us more of the details of what was taking place during that time. And he had two counselors, the Pharaoh, two main counselors, and we're going to find out who these counselors were. Okay, and we're going to also find out who Job is as well. So let's just get straight into it. This is the book of Jasher, chapter 66, verses 12 to 17. And all the elders of Egypt and the wise men thereof said unto the king, may the king live forever. You did counsel, it says, you did counsel us to counsel against the children of Yasha'al, and we did unto them according to the word of the king. But in proportion, it says, to increase the labor, so do they increase. And it says, and grow in the land, and behold, the whole country is filled with them. Just the same way as it is in America. Okay, we serve captivity over here. They try to kill us and wipe us out of numbers, but for some reason, our population is so big today. It's the same thing. But let's stay focused right here. Verse 14. Now therefore, our Lord and King, the eyes of all Egypt is upon you, to give advice with your wisdom, by which they may prevail over Yasha'al to destroy them, or to diminish them from the land. And the king answered them, saying, give you counsel in this matter, that we may know what to do unto them. And an officer, listen closely, one of the king's counselors, here we go, you guys ready? Whose name was Job, from Aram Naharaim, in the land of Uz, answered the king, saying. So we clearly see here that Job is from Aram. There you go, Judah Awoken. Okay, and like I said, I'm giving you 2 weeks to make a video in response to cut all of this information that I just gave you today. All right, we clearly see that Job is from Aram. Okay, and it says not just Aram, it says Aram Naharaim in the land of Uz. So this Uz was not a descendant for y'all who think that Uz has something to do with Edom. This Uz, okay, in the book of Job chapter 1, okay, was in Syria. Has nothing to do with Edom. Edom was south. Aram is east of Israel, man. And your so-called elders claim to be 100% prophet and apostle, and they can't explain this to some of you, man. That's a shame, man. That's a damn shame. Verse 15, and the officer, one of the king's counselors, whose name was Job, from Aram Naharaim in the land of Uz, answered the king, saying, if it please the king, let him hear the counsel of his servant. And the king said unto him, speak. So now we're about to hear some type of advice that your beloved Job, that everybody thinks that Job is Israel. Let's see what Job suggests to the king of Egypt to do with our people. It says, and Job spake before the king. It says before the king, the princes, and before all the elders of Egypt, saying. We're going to find out what Job said. Verse 17, behold, the counsel of the king, which he has advised formerly respecting the labor of the children of Yasha'al, is very good. And you must not remove from them that labor forever. But this is the advice counseled by which you may leasen them, if it seems good to the king to afflict them. So we're about to find out something what Job was going to find out. And this right here is one of the very major prophecies, or one of the major events that took place in the time up before the Exodus. Okay? And it was Job that made this decision. Verse 20. Behold, we have feared a war long time. It says, and we said, when Yasha'al becomes fruitful in the land, it says, they shall drive us from the land if a war should take place. It says, if it please the king, let a royal decree go forth. So Job called this a royal decree. And let it be written in the laws of Egypt, which shall not be revoked, that every male child born in Yasha'al, his blood shall be spilled upon the ground. You guys still like Job? So we understand that Job was the one that gave the advice to the Egyptians before Moses' birth to kill all the Hebrews. It was Job that did this. Y'all didn't know that, did you? Well, now you know. Talking about he's from the tribe of Levi. But let's keep on going. It says, and by your doing this, when all the children of, it says, and when all the male children of Israel shall have died, it says, the evil of their war shall cease. It says, let the king do so, and send forth all the Hebrew midwives, and order them in this matter to execute it. Wow. Wow. Job was kind of evil. Now we see why later on he gets humbled in his book, and why the Most High took all the riches from him. Because he got his riches through being a counselor for other wicked Gentiles who consulted against the holy nation of Israel. Okay, let's keep on reading. To execute it, so the thing pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Job. And the king sent forth the Hebrew midwives to be called, of which the name was one. It says the name of one was Shephrah, and the name of the other Hua. So Job was the one that came up with the idea to kill all the Hebrew firstborn children before Moses was born. This is why a lot of our people, before y'all start saying that, oh, we shouldn't read that, I suggest y'all read these books, man. Don't let your elder tell you, oh, don't read Jasher. Oh, because we don't know. Well, so we don't know where a lot of the books of the Apocrypha come from. We don't know what we don't have the exact record, but yet they connect. Okay? And this right here is connecting with Holy Scripture. And this is a major chunk that the Roman Catholic Church took out. And this is why a lot of our people have a misunderstanding of scriptures. And this is why we will praise Job and call him a Levite and an Israelite and all that, when come to find out he was nothing but a Gentile, man. And not just that, a Gentile that wanted to kill Israelites. But I guess later on something happens to him, because when Jethro, okay, Moses' father-in-law, steps on the scene, he changes his tone. Okay, we're going to find that out. So let's jump back to Balaam, because the text in Joshua goes back and forth. Let's go to Joshua, the 67th chapter. Now it goes back to Balaam. Now we understand that Balaam was working for Zepho. Remember? Zepho in Kittim. Alright? Now, guess something happens to him because he dies. Zepho. And now Balaam leaves that land to go work for somebody else. Let's get this. This is Joshua chapter 67, verses 8 to 10. And it says, and it was after the death of the king of Kittim, which would be Zepho in this context, because you understand earlier that Zepho became king of Kittim, and that Balaam was a counselor for him for divination to try to see who could win his battles in the future. It says that Balaam, the son of Beor, fled from the land of Kittim, and he went and came to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. You see? So Balaam left that position, and he had I guess it was back then, it was like resumes. Because then he went to Egypt, and the Egyptians recognized him because he had such a strong reputation. And this is what happened. And Pharaoh received him with great honor, for he had heard of his wisdom. So his wisdom had to have been really good. And we understand later on that the king of Moab even hires this young boy. Okay, this young man from Syria. Okay, and it says, and Pharaoh received him with great honor, for he had heard of his wisdom, and he gave him presents and made him what? A counselor, and aggrandized him. And Balaam dwelt in Egypt in honor with all the nobles of the king, and the nobles exalted him because they all coveted to learn his wisdom. So we clearly see that Balaam, okay, has a strong reputation in the ancient world. And now he left from the land of Kittim, and now he's working with the same people that that Job was working for. Okay, the Egyptians. So now that Balaam is in the town, he comes to town. He's in Egypt now. And Egypt is still having the same problem with our nation. We're still growing in numbers, and they're still consulting on what to do with our nation. So this is Joshua chapter 67, verses 20, and I'm going to read to 25. And then we're going to understand something that Jethro, we understand where Jethro, which is Moses' father-in-law, where he got his wealth from too, because he was also a counselor and a Midianite counselor, and he also offered up offerings unto the Most High, like I told Judah Awoken in the context, and he was a Gentile, and he was also working for the Egyptians as well. So let's find out more about Jethro and Job right here, and Balaam, because all three of these men encountered each other. Joshua 67 and 20. Now therefore, O king, take counsel upon this matter, that you may destroy the hope of the children of Yasha'al, and their expectation before this evil arise against Egypt. And the king said unto Balaam, and what shall we do unto Israel? Surely, Yasha'al, surely after a certain matter did we at first counsel against them, and could not prevail over them. So remember when Job tried that advice, it didn't work back then. So now they're asking Balaam. Okay, and verse 22 states this: now therefore give you also advice against them by which we may prevail over them. And Balaam answered the king, saying, send now and call your 2 counselors, and we will see what their advice is upon this matter, and afterward your servant will speak. And the king sent and called his 2 counselors, Reuel. Now in case you don't know who Reuel is Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. So we understand that he had wealth too when Moses encountered him on the way back. Okay, when he was coming from Ethiopia, which you're going to find out later on. And that he was working for the Egyptians. And it says that Reuel, the Midianite, and Job, the Uzite. Now we know this Uzite ain't no Esau, it's Syria. It says, and they came and sat before the counselor. So here we see something that we don't even see in the Torah. We see that in the book of Jasher that is taken out, that Balaam, Jethro, and Job, all three encountered one another. They was all living around the same time period. Okay, so I don't know where y'all get this misconception that, you know, it was different time. These guys was all around the same time, man. Verse 25, and the king said unto them, behold, you both, it says, you have both heard the dream which I have dreamed, and the interpretation thereof. Now therefore give counsel, and know, and see what is to be done to the children of Yasha'al, whereby we may prevail over them, before their evil shall spring up against us. So they're still having the same problem with our nation. Now they're going to Balaam with the issue. But see, this is what separated Jethro from Job and Balaam, because even this is why Moses told Jethro he could have sojourned with us. He could have been one with us, because Jethro kept Torah. He believed in our God. And also Jethro wished and blessed the children of Israel, which goes back to the blessing of Abraham. I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse them that curse thee. Okay, so Jethro was not a bad Gentile. He was a good Gentile. He was you know, he was family. You know, because our first king Moses even intermingled with his daughter, and we had what's it called, Midianite relatives as well dwelling amongst Israel, who knew that we were the chosen people and still kept Torah and worship our God. So a lot of y'all got to come to this realization that there are Gentiles that do serve the Most High and acknowledge the Most High, man. But that don't make them Israel. So this is Joshua chapter 67, verses 26 to 28. It says in Reuel, it says, the Midianite answered the king and said, may the king live. It says, may the king live forever. If it seem good to the king, let him desist from the Hebrews and leave them. It says, and let him not stretch forth his hand against them. For these are they whom Yahuwah chose in the days of old, and took as the lot of his inheritance from amongst all the nations of the earth, and the kings of the earth. And who is there that has stretched forth his hand against them with impunity, and whom their Elohim was not avenged? So Jethro, we gotta love Jethro, because he was a submissive, God-fearing, Yah-fearing, Elohim-fearing Gentile. And he acknowledged us as the chosen people, and he even told these Gentiles, leave Israel alone. Now, when you read the whole text, he goes on to this whole thing on why he shouldn't even bother Israel, starting with Abraham and all the miracles that the Most High has performed for our people. Okay? And you can see that the king of Egypt starts to get mad. Then he turns to Job, and then he asks Job this, and then Job, you can see he starts to catch himself. Okay, Job starts to come like Jethro. He starts to realize that we're people that should not be touched. He starts to say, like, basically, I don't want to have nothing to do with it either. This is Joshua chapter 67, verses 41 to 46. And when Pharaoh heard the words of Jethro, he was very angry with them. You see that? I mean, these nations wanted to wipe us out so much to the point that even when a Gentile was saying, you know, you should leave, they got mad. They wanted to hear death upon us. Isn't that how the other nations treat us till this day? They don't want no good for us. They just want to see us down at the bottom. They don't want to see us elevated to no financial wealth, to no land wealth, they just want to see us basically at a lower state. So the Egyptians had the same mindset when Jethro was speaking up for us. It says, and when Pharaoh heard the words of Jethro, he was very angry with him, so that he arose with shame from the king's presence and went to Midian, his land, and took Joseph's stick with him. He was like, man, give me back Joseph's stick. He was so mad with Jethro for just to leave us alone. It says, and the king said to Job, it said, the Uzite, what say you, Job? And what is your advice respecting the Hebrews? So he looking at Job like, you hear this? What you got to say about this, Job? And you can see that now Job is starting to lean like Jethro. He's not being like Balaam now. Okay? Because he realizes who the true Elohim is and who their people is. This is what Job says. And Job said to the king, behold, all the inhabitants of the land are in your power. Let the king do as it says, let the king do as it seems good in his eyes. So he was like, hey man, like whatever you want to do, that's up to you. You know, like after he heard Jethro put that in, I guess he was like, man, these people is, so he catched himself. Okay, this Syrian Job, he caught himself. He was like, hey man, like, all right, you know what? If you want to mess with the Israelites, you could go ahead and mess with them. But, you know, this is your land. You can do whatever you want. Verse 44, and the king said unto Balaam, what do you say, Balaam? Speak your word that we may hear it. And Balaam said to the king, it says, of all that the king was counseled against the Hebrews will they be delivered. And the king will not, it says, and the king will not be able to prevail over them with any counsel. If, it says, for if you think to lessen them by the flaming fire, you cannot prevail over them. So even Balaam was like, look man, because remember, Balaam already tried with Zepho. This is how come he know that we were a people not to be messed with. That's why I'm giving you all a little history. He was like, look man, I already tried this before. And what Jethro's saying, you can't touch these people. Okay? He said, Abraham, their father from Ur, the Chaldeans, if you think to destroy them with the sword, surely Isaac, their father, was delivered from it, and Aram was placed in his stead. So Balaam was like, look man, their forefathers couldn't, the nations that tried to come against their forefathers couldn't even prevail. You had a council before I came to your city. Before I came to Egypt, it didn't prevail. And I tried to curse them before and it didn't prevail. Just leave these people alone. Basically, that's what they came to this conclusion. So they're like, you know, as time goes on, they leave Israel alone. Now, when we get to Jasher the 7th, when we get to Jasher the 70th chapter, you realize Moses becomes Moses comes on the scene. Masha, our first king. And when he comes on the scene, he's a baby, and he does this thing where he takes off the Pharaoh's crown. And Balaam was at that time, and he saw that. And when Balaam saw that, he started to realize something, that child was going to grow up to be somebody. So Balaam knew about Moses way before he bumped into Balak in the wilderness. He knew about him. Okay, and this is what Balaam advises to the king of Egypt concerning Masha. This is the book of Jasher, chapter 70, and I'm going to read verses 18 to 22. This is Balaam speaking to the king of Pharaoh after Moses took off the Pharaoh's crown. It says, now therefore, my lord, king, behold, this child is risen up in their stead in Egypt, to do according to their deeds and to trifle with every king, priest, and judge. So Balaam receives some type of revelation in the spirit that child is going to grow up to help the children of Israel, to get them out of their land, which they don't want. Okay, verse 19. And if it please the king, let us now therefore spill his blood upon the ground. You hear what Balaam said, man? Balaam wanted to kill Masha, man. He said, lest he grow, it says, lest he grow up and take away the government from your hand, and the hope of Egypt perish after he shall have reigned. So Balaam knew that Masha was going to grow up to be somebody special for the nation of Israel. And Balaam said to the king, let us moreover call for all the judges of Egypt and the wise men thereof, that we may know if the judgment of death is due to this boy, as you did say, and then we shall slay him. So they was like, look man, that child right there, he's going to grow up. And them same people that we was worried about, he gonna free. He might just grow up to free these people. So now they're contemplating on trying to take him out now, before he's even born. Verse 22. And Pharaoh sent and called for all the wise men of Egypt, and they came before the king. And the angel of Yahuwah came amongst them, and he was like one of the wise men of Egypt. So an angel manifested himself as if like he blended in with the Egyptian wise men in the crowd. And it says, and the king said unto the wise men, surely you have heard what this Hebrew boy who is in the house has done. And thus Balaam judged in the matter. So when we read further on, because I'm not going to read all of this because there's so much. Basically, the angel comes and saves Masha out of the situation. Okay? And then Masha grows up. And then, you know, he checks in on our people. When he checks in on our people, because he know that we used to stay in Gershom, which was a territory that we was dwelling in from the time of Joseph, that he set up for us when the sons of Jacob came to dwell into Egypt when there was a famine in the land of Canaan. Okay, so when we were dwelling in Gershom, Moses, Masha, used to go check in on our people, man. And that goes to show you he was with the people, because even though he had a high reputation, he was like, man, let me go, you know, let me go to the hood, man. Let me go check on my people, man. Go see how they doing. And then our people lets them know something to Moses about what Balaam tried to do to him in his past. This is Jasher chapter 70, verse 32. And it says, and while the boy was in the king's house, he was robed in purple and grew amongst the children of the king. So Masha, he used to be amongst the Egyptians, but his spirit didn't take to these people, because this is what he used to do. It says, and when Masha grew up in the king's house, Betha, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him as a son. And all the household of Pharaoh honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him. They were afraid of him because Balaam knew about that situation, you know, when he was a young boy. They knew that he was one of the chosen people. They knew that he was not amongst them. And they also was probably afraid of the fact that if he realized that he wasn't with them or a part of them, that he could side with his people. And technically that's what happened. That's how the Mosiah had it worked out. Verse 34, and he daily went forth and came into the land of Goshen, where his brethren, the children of Yasha'al, were. And Masha saw them daily in shortness of breath and hard labor. So Moses used to go check on our people, and then he used to see them just like over here, catching hell, working, while the Egyptians is over there living good, and his people is over here was suffering. He used to go to Gershom because that was the land that was given to, you know, our people from Joseph. Okay, so he used to be like you know, like he didn't feel connected with the Egyptians. So when he used to go check on his people, I guess he used to feel hurt too, to see that our people was in this estate. And Masha asked them, saying, wherefore is this labor meted out unto you day by day? And they told him all that had befallen them, and all the injunctions which Pharaoh had put upon them before his birth. And they told him all the counsels which Balaam the son of Beor had counseled against him, and what he had counseled against him in order to slay him when he had taken the king's crown from off his head. So Moses was found out. They was like, look, man, you know those people, our people told him, those people that you hang out with, they wanted to kill you when you was a little boy. And this is what happens. And it says, and when Masha heard these things, his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him. And he was in ambush for him day by day. So Masha was like, what? This dude tried to kill me when I was a little boy, and he helped put our people in slavery? So Moses was like always waiting to like catch him off guard. Like, okay, yeah, that's him today. Yeah, let me try to like run up on him. Okay, and Balaam got hip to it, because obviously in verse 29 it says, and Balaam was afraid of Masha. He and his two sons rose up and went, it says, and went from Egypt, and they fled and delivered their souls and betook themselves into the land of Cush to Kekianus, king of Cush. Now we're about to find out that the king of Cush, Kekianus, why did Balaam flee to Africa? Why is a Syrian going to Cush? Because you're going to find out that the Ethiopians conquered those Syrians. Okay, and they technically, what Balaam was technically going to do was check up on his people and Cush, running from Moses. And then you're going to find out later on that Moses comes down there and bumps into Balaam once again. Now, when we get to Jasher, the 72nd chapter, the children of Cush is going against the Syrians, or Aram, which we have to understand. We already established that Job is from Aram, Balaam is from Aram. Okay? So, I'm just doing this for history's sake so you guys can have the understanding. Now, when we get to the 72nd chapter, it states this about the children of Aram. We know that Job came from this region, Laban came from that Egypt region, and Balaam came from that region, and they were all described as the east. Isn't it so interesting that it says that too here? Jasher chapter 72 verse 1. And it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of the east and Aram. So we clearly see that the children of Aram, or those Syrian tribes, whether it was from Padan Aram or Aram Naharaim, okay, was referred to as the children of the east. This is why Balaam went to Cush, because his people was dwelling there at the time. It says, and they rebelled against the king of Cush, in whose hands they were. And Kekianus, king of Cush, went forth with all the children of Cush, a people numberless as the sand, and he went to fight against Aram and the children of the east. You realize why I'm reading this, right? Aram, children of the east. Job from the east, Balaam from the east, Laban from the east, and they're all Syrian. So I hope you guys get some type of understanding, man. And like I said, Judah Awoken, you got a lot of work to do on this lesson, man. On your lesson, on your part. But I know you're going to forfeit. You're going to forfeit because you ain't got nothing else to say. Verse 3. And when Kekianus went out, he left Balaam, the magician, it says, with his 2 sons to guard the city and the lowest sort of the people of the land. Now this is dumb, because here it is, you don't conquer a people and leave the people who you conquered in power. This is why they didn't even want Moses or people have any rulership in the land of Egypt, because you one day could fear that people could consult with his people, and his people could overthrow your people in your own land. Well, obviously Kekianus wasn't paying attention, because this is what happens. Verse 4, and Kekianus went forth to Aram and the children of the east, and he fought against them and smote them, and they all fell down wounded before Kekianus and his people. And he took many of them captives, and he brought them under subjection as at first, and he encamped, and it says, and he encamped upon their land to take tribute from them as usual. Now check this out. And Balaam the son of Beor, when the king of Cush had left him to guard the city, which was very foolish, and the poor of the city, he arose up and advised the people of the land to rebel against King Kekianus. And it says, not to let him enter the city when he should come home. And the people of the land hearkened to him, and they swore to him and made him king over them. And it says, and his 2 sons for captains of the army. So we see that Balaam helps the people, his people at that time, overthrow Kekianus, the king of Cush, in this chapter. Now this is around the same time when Masha is about to kill the Egyptian, because the chapter right before this, Masha killed the Egyptian. He's fleeing. He's actually coming into this region. All right, we're going to get to that right now. Get further on in Jasher chapter 73, we understand Masha comes to Cush. He arrives to Cush, and Cush is having a tough time trying to get their own territory back from the children of Aram, because remember, Balaam is king over there with his 2 sons being governor, with their people keeping them trapped in. When you fully read the text, the main reason that was a complication for them to get back in is because they had snakes on the borders, on the ridge of how this land was set up. So I guess it might have been like some type of mountain or some type of valley that you had to go through in order to get through before you get to the city. And it had a valley full of snakes. So These snakes used to attack some of the the Cushite men, Akakianis' men, and they were very dreadful of going into those regions to fight. So Masha, being an Israelite, being, you know how we are, he comes up with the idea of taking these birds, these stork birds, and when you read the full context, the birds, he uses the birds they starve out the birds so they get hungry, so the birds can come down and attack the snakes, push the snakes out. They go in there, they conquer the place, and they basically get their land back. Moses is set up as a king over Cush, and then he gets the Kekianis' wife, okay, and the Ethiopian woman. This is how come when we read in the book of Numbers, okay, that Miriam gets very angry with Moses for marrying the Egyptian woman, but we realize that Jethro was a Midianite. His daughter and them were Midianites. So what Ethiopian woman, for marrying an Ethiopian woman? So what Ethiopian did Moses counter? You have to read Jasher, okay? So when you read Jasher, chapter 73, it states this, verse 28. It says, and Balaam the magician, when he saw that the city was taken, so Moses is coming in with the with the Cushites now, okay? They're overthrowing the people of Syria that basically overthrew the Cushites, and he's helping them take back the land. And it's funny how the Most High set that in the spirit for Moses to still get back at Balaam, because Balaam was the one that was trying to kill him. It says, and Balaam the magician, when he saw that the city was taken, he opened the gate. It says, and he and his sons and 8 brothers fled and returned to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. It says, they are the sorcerers and magicians who are mentioned in the Torah, in the book of the Torah, standing against Moses when Yahuwah brought the plagues upon Egypt. So we understand more about Balaam. The magicians that when Moses comes back and he drops his stick, that was Balaam. You see? But now if you don't read Joshua, you don't get that true understanding. You'll be like, who these guys are? That's who they were. You see? It says, so Masha took the city by his wisdom, because he came up with the idea of using the birds as a vessel to help them conquer this people. It says, and the children of Cush placed him on the throne instead of Kekianis, king of Cush. And they placed the royal crown upon his head, and they gave him for a woman Adonia. It says the Cushite queen, woman of Kekianis. So now we understand that woman that Miriam was mad about, obviously Masha told Miriam about that, and that's what made her speak against Moses in the book of in the Torah for marrying that Ethiopian woman. But as you read on, Moses technically didn't deal with her. Okay, he didn't really go along with the marriage with it. So, because he said that he was not going to deal with the daughters of Ham or any of the daughters that are close to the daughters of Canaan. Because you remember our forefathers told us not to deal with them, so he didn't deal with them. So basically, that woman got mad with Moses and pushed Moses out. So he cannot be king over Cush anymore if you read the full text. So now Moses leaves, and now he bumps into Jethro, okay, because he's coming back now, okay, and then Jethro imprisons him and shackles him up, and then basically he talks with Jethro, and Jethro understands Moses' purpose, and he realizes that Moses was the same one that Balaam wanted to kill, because you remember Jethro was there during those days. And Jethro realizes that, okay, Moses is doing the part for the Most High, for the true Elohim, which is Yah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Jethro gives him his daughter, okay, and then he returns back to Egypt after that. Now, we're going to do some more jumping around, because like I said, you guys got to read Joshua for yourself, okay? But like I said, I'm going to try to put as much history in this of Joshua when you guys can just read it. I would say get yourself a Sefer if you could, because this is that's more better translation than this one right here. But get yourself a Sefer, and you will clearly see that you know, that these are part of the Holy Scriptures. You know, it all connects. And then when you read them, you get a better understanding, and then you won't be walking around, be looking foolish when you bump into real biblical scholars. You won't be looking like Judah Awoken, you know. So let's fast forward to the time of Numbers. Really, Numbers around the 21st chapter. All right, around the time. Now, this is like 30 some odd years after we departed from Egypt. And Balaam was already dealt with Balak, the king of Moab. Now he is working for, you remember, Sihon. Sihon was the king of the Amorites. And it's going to clearly let you know in the text where Balaam was from. So we're going to finish off this Judah Awoken. Balaam was not an Edomite. Job was not a Levite. Okay? And then you tried to use Job chapter 1 and 6 where it said the sons of God. But it also said that Satan was in the mix of the sons of God. So those sons of God was not talking about the Israelites. Those sons of God in Job 1 is talking about the Elohim, okay? The angels, okay? The watchers, or known as in Enoch, okay? That's the sons of God, because it said that Satan was amongst them. Satan don't hang out amongst the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, just be hanging out with us, and then we're right before the throne of the Most High. Those sons of God was referring to the nation of Israel. It does not mean that Job was a Levite. You're very foolish, man. You don't know the scriptures. You're dumb. You're stupid. Okay, technically, you know. And then and the main reason why I'm saying is because you calling me a false prophet. You talk this big talk as if you know what you're talking about, but then every time when somebody gives you a scripture, then you jump. I know you're not going to even answer this question. You answer this or even make a video. You're going to go on my page and go to another video and just talk more trash. Okay? And that's how I'm going to know then to block you, because you have no intellect. Okay? And I don't got time to be dealing with it. I'm a father. I got a woman to deal with. You know, women already are bad enough. I got to move in 2 weeks. Okay, I'm trying to get to Zion to try to keep this Torah in October. I got a lot going on. So just because I don't make a video fast enough on your time doesn't mean that somebody's hiding from you. But anyway, let's get to Joshua chapter 84. And it's going to give us a clear distinction of where Beor and his son Balaam are from. And it says, and verse 14, and in the 36th year of the children of Yasha'al's departing from Egypt, Yahuwah smote the heart of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and he waged war and went forth to fight against the children of Moab. Now the Most High puts the spirit on him, because you remember Moab came against us. So now he's punishing Moab through sending somebody stronger. And the same people that used to try to curse Israel, okay, Balaam, okay, against what's it called, his kingdom. So it's like Satan going against Satan, kingdom against kingdom now. Okay, so this nation rose up against Israel. So the Most High rose up an adversary against Moab, which was this king Sihon right here. And Sihon goes to Balaam. Okay, now you remember Balaam already knows not to mess with Israel now. Remember, through all his past experiences, he realized he can't destroy the people. So when you read verse 14, it says Sihon sent messengers to Peor, the son of Inez. It says the son of Balaam, the counselor to the king of Egypt. So we clearly see that his reputation from Egypt even came to the Amorites. The Amorites was like, man, we know that Balaam, he's good with divination. We want to hire him. Okay, it says to Balaam his son to curse Moab in order that it might be delivered into the hand of Sihon, that it might be delivered into the hand of Sihon. It says, and the messengers went and brought Beor, the son of Inez, Balaam, his son, from Bethor in what? Aram Naharaim. So Balaam, just like in Numbers, he did come from Aram. It all connects here. So Balaam was a Syrian. Judah Awoken talking about Balaam was an Edomite. False prophet, false teachings being slaughtered through the Ruach HaKodesh, man. You're finished, man. You're finished. You should give it a rest, man. So Beor and Balaam, his son, came to the city of Sion, and they cursed Balaam and their king in the presence of Sion, the king of the Amorites. Verse 22, and Sion gave numberless presents of silver and gold to Beor and Balaam, his son, and he dismissed them, and they went to Aram Naharaim, their home and country. Woo, you finished, boy. You finished, boy. Now, let's deal with this next topic. Oh, but what about Job 30 and 30? Well, when it says that his skin was black upon me, you have to understand our people was a people of color. We understand that the Hebrews, the nation of Israel, are people of color. Okay, they had Negroid features. As you see us scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, predominantly the most number of us have color. Okay, and the people that we intermingled with, we see that Laban, right? They helped build the nation of Israel. Rebecca was a Syrian. Laban, okay, Bethuel, his father was. We mingle with these people that helped make our nation. And if you understand, there's a book out there. I think it's what's its name? Yeah, the book is called Unmistakably Black, and it clearly shows you how the Syrian people were dark-skinned people. This is why I said that his skin, that's why Job made a statement that his skin was black upon him, was for the simple fact that he was of a dark nation. Now, if you don't believe me, I even checked it out. When you look up that region, when you look up the people, like ancient Rome, check out to my right here. That's a Syrian. You see? To my left, that's a Syrian. All right? This man in the middle here, that's a Syrian. And if you was to cut all their head off, if they was to speak Creole or Haitian or Dominican or something like that, they could almost pass for some of our people. Okay? But they're not Israelites. Just because somebody said that they got dark skin does not make them an Israelite. We got to understand the fact that even Moses passed as the Egyptian. There's other dark nations out there other than the nation of Israel. Okay? That's why I said that. All right? Now, we already established the fact, because now they might say, but wait a minute. When we read Lamentations, he got to be Edom. We already established the fact that Uz, okay, is Syria. As a province of Syria. Now, you have to realize Lamentations was written around the time of Jeremiah. Okay? So this is like around 600 BC. Okay? Now, the Edomites helped conquer Jerusalem, like I stated at the beginning of this video. And when they left from Petra and Edom, and when they got tributary and gifts for helping the Babylonians, they gave them certain lands to dwell in. Now, and they dwelt in Uz, okay, which is part of the Mesopotamian region. That's why Jeremiah said, woe to you, Edom, that dwelt in Uz. Those were the Edomites that helped the Babylonians, and they were dwelling in Mesopotamia. They left their land. Now, I have something here from the New Onger's Bible Dictionary, right? And it says this about Uz. It says, Uz, the son of Aram. It says, a grandson of Shem. The land of Uz was the country in which Job lived. The Uzites dwelt in the Arabian desert, west from Babylon. So we understand that this Uz has nothing to do with Edom. It's west of Babylon, man. It says the adjustments to the Edomites of Mount Seir, who at one time occupied Uz, probably as conquerors. You see? So as the time went on, when they conquered the region, those Edomites went to Uz. The position of the country may further be deduced from the native lands of Job's friends, Eliphaz the Temite being an Edomite, and the Buzite, and Elihu the Buzite, probably a neighbor of the Chaldeans. So we see that Uz was a mingled people. This is how come when we read the book of Jeremiah, okay, it mentions Uz and the mingled people, because after the Babylonians conquered that region and they mixed that region up, you had many nations that was dwelling in that time. But when that time happened, Job was dead. When the Babylonians came in, Job was during the days of when we was in Egypt. Okay, so Lamentations is a different time period from Job's time period. And in Lamentation, those were Edomites that came to the land of Uz to occupy it. And when you further goes on, it says, the land of Uz is mentioned in only 2 other passages of scripture. It is grouped by Jeremiah with Egypt, Philistine, Edom, and Moab. But in Lamentation, he identifies it as a portion of Edom, which is wrong. Or, you see, this is the point right here, going to show you that the scholars don't even know, Esau don't know. Or affirms that some of the Edomites in his days inhabited Uz. You see that? And I know you guys in these camps like documents. I have one little document from the internet. It says Uz. It says Jeremiah indicated that the Edomites, Esau's descendants, dwelt in the land of Uz around 600 BC. It states the same exact scriptures that I mentioned in Jasher. So it goes to show you that Jasher has to be read for us to get this knowledge. It says a kingdom of some importance somewhere, what? In southern Syria and not far from Judea. That's why it was referred to as the east. Ancient Syria, Aram, was upper Mesopotamia. That's how come in the other text it called Aram or Padan Aram as Mesopotamia. Okay? And it also says Uz is a local in the Syrian region. It may donate a branch of the Aramean tribe. It appears as the birthplace of Job. Job seems to have been an Aramean. So, I did my part. Judah awoken. Okay, I'm waiting for you now. 2 weeks. All right, for you brothers and sisters out there, I hope you guys got the knowledge and understanding of who Job, Balaam, and Laban were. That these men were from Syria, which were known as different names. It was known as Padan Aram, Aram Naharaim, Aram, Syria, Mesopotamia, all the same region. Okay, so I proved my point. I hope my people that's been seeking this knowledge on Job for a long time, I hope you got your answer. I hope the Spirit have you draw you to this video. I hope you guys got the understanding. And for you scoffers, hey, but like I said, you could either come on the comment board and just surrender, or if you changing the topic after I did the video because you said that you waited 2 weeks. You came on my page this morning talking about you waited 2 weeks and you don't see nothing. Well, there goes your video. So I'm waiting for you. So with that, Kwam Yasha'al, all right. All praise is due to the Most High, Ayun, all right, Yahuwah, Bahashem, Yahushua HaMashiach. Until next time, my people, Shalom.